Welcome to the Mend podcast. Ad-free. Well, the only ad is shop at Reds. There it is. Ad campaign over. Joe from Reds here. Gosh, it's later in the week. What is it, Thursday, guys? Thursday. We got our fly tying rendezvous this Saturday. Which you guys have any input on the AV challenges that Dallas and I are up against?
I'm glad it's you and not me.
That's how I feel as well. Yeah.
Well, we're struggling to figure out how to get our fancy Sony cameras to broadcast on the televisions. Seems like we have every cord on the planet except the one we need to broadcast. But that problem should get solved by Saturday. Looking to see a handful of you out on Saturday for the first annual Reds Fly Tying Rendezvous. The concept of this is people are going to tie flies. And they're going to go catch fish on those flies that afternoon.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love it.
What's your prediction on river flows and the likelihood of that happening?
Well,
I think the river's going to fish.
Think it's going to fish?
Yeah, I think.
I thought it was going to be out, but now what they're saying today, it looks like it might fish. So
Water looks good right now.
Man, it might hold through the whole time. I'm not sure.
Not to mention it's going to be so warm, right? Like a lot of times in the early spring, you get a rise in the river from snow melt or something like that, and it brings the water temp down. But it's going to be so nice this weekend. Like, even if the river's a little dirty, a little high, which a lot of us really like, actually, for where it puts the trout, the main thing is as long as that water temp's still good, I mean, it's going to fish great.
Cold, dirty water is the worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cold and dirty, you're probably screwed.
Just tie more flies on Saturday.
But if it's high and a little off color, but good water temps, I mean, that can be the best fishing of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. Hopefully people can tie a few squallows, whether dry flies or nymphs, on Saturday. And then if it goes well and everybody's having fun, we're hoping to do these things either quarterly or a couple times a year. Like a summer campaign would be really cool. To, tie dry flies and then fish them the next morning or that evening or something like that. Yeah, so Fly Tying Rendezvous on Saturday. We'll post some photos and media on that and a couple of the patterns that are going to get tied. But the gist of the podcast today is that in this order, shop manager Bob went to Christmas Island with a group. Then Joe, went to Christmas Island with a group. And then the very next week, Eric went to Christmas Island as a group. And we're going to break down a bunch of the details. We've all been several times now, and we're going to break down just some of the stuff we're constantly learning and just talk about the fishing, a little bit about prep, packing, and technique and all that. Did I tell you guys I went trout fishing yesterday?
Yeah, with your buddy?
Yeah, my buddy Josh.
Yeah.
Have you guys met Josh Potter?
Oh, yeah.
I met him one time at your house, and I really liked it.
Oh,
He's funny.
Yeah, we stayed up late debating the ethics of spear hunting. It's not the same night.
I don't know that I was there for that whole time, but we had some great conversations. Yeah.
God, he and my son Jensen got into a huge argument over a good handful of beers about the ethics of spear hunting. And oh my gosh, it's like
Spear fishing?
I wasn't there, and
Or
I've even heard about
fishing.
these conversations.
Spear fishing or hunting with a spear?
spear hunting. Yeah. The ethics of spear hunting. Yeah. Yeah. My son Jensen was digging his heels in, man. It was like they were yelling at each other across the table at one point. But yeah, I forgot you were there that one night in Dallas, stumbled over across the field, living in the neighborhood there for that night. That was fun. But yeah, so I've done this twice in the last year. So two of my good fly fishing mentors were Chad Gillespie, you guys know Chad well, and Josh. And I've reenacted the first fishing experience that I had with either of those guys twice in the last year. So the first time I met Potter was we got introduced by a mutual friend because he loves to fish the desert creeks out in the Columbia Basin, kind of a little hidey hole in the wall type stuff. And I was kind of getting into that. And this other guy was like, hey, you guys should meet. And I called him on the phone. I don't even know if we had cell phones, dude. It was like...
Called his landline?
Yeah, I called his landline. It was 26 years ago. And we met up, and Kelly likes to joke, my wife, about we met at a gas station. For the first time I ever met him was at a gas station. And dude, we became like best friends. We almost bought a fly shop together in Spokane. So I've told you guys about that. We went through that process. So like all those years ago, talking about buying that fly shop, that was my buddy. Well, we reenacted the same trip we did 26 years ago yesterday, except we got like a tenth the number of fish. It was, even with all the skill we have now.
Well,
Yeah.
the weather yesterday was kind of weird here. Was it weird over there?
Oh, it was garbage, man. I forgot my rain jacket, and it was 38 degrees and raining when we started. And we walk into the first hole, and Josh is an astute angler, but some of the fishing he has access to is really, really good. And he was throwing like an Oros bobber on the Spring Creek, with 2 nymphs, and he just clubs it right into the first hole. It hooks like, he gets 3 good strikes and lands 2 fish, like in the first hole. And I'm like, oh my gosh. We have a photo. We went out there with a photographer years ago that was really well known named Jeff Edvalds, and he has a photo of Potter hooked up on 2 fish simultaneously, one on each fly, like mid jump. Both of them were over 14 inches, like on that Spring Creek. Those are really nice sized fish. 14 and 16 inches, like 2 fish hooked up simultaneously midair. Like, to give you an idea of like what it can be like, we got our asses handed to us yesterday. I was pretty humbled. I was tangled in the grass, man. I was losing flies. I busted off the biggest fish of the day.
Well, so he got 2 right off the bat. I mean, what happened?
Nothing.
That was it.
No, we probably caught 8 or 10 trout, but like, it's a private piece of water that doesn't get fished very often. And yesterday the fish were crazy spooky. They didn't want to eat. We finally got on some risers on dries, but they were in like a swirling back eddy, where there's a lot of high banks where the creek is super steep and you can't just get in the creek and go up and set up a good angle. So you have to take a lot of weird approaches, and you have to cast off a lot of high banks from like the super tall grass. We got a couple of eats. He got a couple of eats on dries. In the one place they were eating Baetis, and the rest of it we threw little nymphs and streamers and whatnot. But God, it blew like crazy. I planned to do a whole YouTube video on it, and then I watched it yesterday, and the wind was so bad, blowing in the mic and everything else. It was bad. But dude, it was pretty fun, like reenacting that trip. I did the same trip with Chad. Chad and I fished 28 years ago, and then we went and did the exact float all over again, which was really fun. That fishing was much better, but yeah, I had a super time, man. Some of those backyard fisheries, like one thing that we did is we ended up kind of fishing upstream and then coming back, and I was like, hey, like for this kind of fishing, have you ever ran New Zealand strike indicators? And he's like, no, man. He's like, I'm kind of stuck in my old habits. And I was like, because that Oros is kind of like a cannonball coming into some of those holes. When the fishing's good, it doesn't matter. They don't really care. But we ended up hiking back to the truck because I was tired of fish. Was going to assume I was going to tight line nymph and streamer fish the whole time with my little hardy ultralight, and the wind was so bad, it was just tough. You kind of had to, and the fish were so spooky, you kind of had to get the flies in there and let them soak for a bit, or get a drift that really held for a long time. And they just weren't chasing streamers for us. So we hiked all the way back to the truck and set up New Zealand indicator rigs. And yeah, he just fell in love with that. He's like, dude, I've been wanting to do it, but like that, the little system of setting it up, if you've never done it, you're like, that's gotta be a pain in the ass.
It's not.
No, it's really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason there's a tool. The tool makes it easy. If you have the tool, it's great. But one thing I did yesterday for the first time, I had never taken one apart and then put it back together without the tool. So we use a little tippet ring, so that the New Zealand, if it's on light line, can slide. And I put a little tippet ring on there so that it would never slide down, on recasting or hook sets, as we're running the indicator out in the real light portion of the leader. Well, of course, we go back and we set all these up and comb them out, and then we hike like a mile downstream. And he's like, yeah, we want to hike down to this one particular hole. Of course, we get down there and the fish are feeding on Baetis after we took after we took this time to get all set up. So he cut his off, and I just saved the yarn and the tippet ring with a little piece of line on it so that you can actually find it and hold it. And then I took the little plastic bushing because I didn't, what it's like when you have your boat bag and then you got your sling pack or whatever you're using. You don't just want to move everything into one bag. So I didn't bring extra New Zealand rigs, but yeah, I took that little bushing and put it in a little fold of my ball cap. And then when we managed to screw it up with dry flies, we wanted to put the indicator back on. I actually was able to lace that, tip it back through, and rebuild that New Zealand rig. But if you didn't have the tool, it would be a royal pain in the ass. Yeah, anyway, we ended up catching this fish, had a super time, but it reminded me some of those brushy creeks, we had brush and tall grass and spooky trout. Like that'll make you a tough angler, man. I can't remember being so thrilled to catch a 12-inch trout as I was yesterday.
Yeah. You were working for it.
Yeah. Eric, you fished that creek before.
Yeah.
Some of the other sections.
Yep. In the spring. I like that kind of fishing. And it's the same reason why we like fishing Christmas Island is, it's, you earn it, you're and sight fishing too, right?
Yep.
At least a lot of the times you could see them and set up, and I like fishing that spring creek water.
I think one of the most revealing things about saltwater fishing is when you screw it up, you get to visibly see, like, oh, that didn't work at all.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like on the creek yesterday, man. I was like, I screwed that one up. Those fish are gone. But yeah, so Bob, let's start with you, man. So what were your dates going to Christmas Island?
I was there about a month ago now. I'm right at the end of January, beginning of February. And full moon was towards the end of my trip, I think. Went to the Kari house with a group of guys. Wasn't a full group, but it was a good sized group. And yeah, had a great time. Had some cloudy days, which of course no one likes to see that when you're saltwater fishing, but that's part of the deal. But yeah, we had an absolutely great time for sure.
And I had a question right on the tip of my tongue. It was riveting. It's a question that can't be answered. Tell us about moons and tides a little bit. Like when you look at this, you've done this enough and you've planned.
What's the best moon phase?
Everyone wants to know. When is the best, right? For those that don't know, Christmas Island's, 80 miles from the equator? It's nearly on the equator. So the weather is nearly the same every month. Maybe a little bit more rain in the winter than in the summer, like a couple days a month on average. But I don't know that any of us has ever seen a full day of rain, right? You get a white rain storm that might come through, or, you might get some sprinkles or something, but it's never, at least I've never seen it where it's just absolutely raining for days on end or anything like that. So in general, the weather's pretty forgiving. But yeah, what's the best moon phase? I think the general consensus is either a full moon or a new moon can be good too. But the full moon, that's when the bones go out to Paris Flats and they spawn, and you can catch them after that spawn. Like a few days after that full moon seems to be best. But you want those, the full moon corresponds with the bigger tides. The bigger tidal swings pushing the water in and out of the lagoon seems to be best. So full moon, new moon also has big tides. So I think that's why the new moon also works good. But yeah, you want those bigger tidal swings. I think you could probably go there any day of the year and have pretty good fishing, right? But if you're trying to pick, that's about the only thing to, maybe change your idea one way or the other would just be to hit that moon phase.
Now, I just learned this. I should have known it logically, but did you know that Kiribati is it's the only country in the world that is in all four hemispheres? Eastern and Western, because of the international date line, right? And northern southern, although we're like 1.7 degrees north of the equator, like down at the Korean rack, we're 1.7 degrees north of the equator. The other portion of the country is obviously made up of other islands, the Line Islands.
Yeah.
And so you're in all four hemispheres.
Huh. I didn't know that.
I wasn't.
Because Christmas Island's part of the Line Islands, but also the Cook Islands, I think, are part of Kiribati. And the capital of Tarawa is quite a ways away from Christmas Island, where we're going, which is Kiribati.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. All four hemispheres. So the full moon hit late in the week for you?
Late in the week, yep. Like maybe the second to last day, something like that. Yep.
Yeah, and I ran out of there. I think the full moon was
maybe your last day.
I was getting pretty full. And
it was it was the last day of your trip.
The day I left, it was the full moon, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the day you got there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Eric in the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like through a glass wall.
Yeah, full security, whatever there is.
I was knocking on the thing.
It was still fun though. It was cool.
Yeah, it's always fun. You're that far away from home, seeing your buddy. So give us a little breakdown about the fishing. You obviously had cloud cover, and that changes your ability to physically see fish. Of course, it can have perhaps a positive effect on fish behavior. That would be debatable. But did you see a change in the fish behavior or anything during the course of the week as that full moon built up?
I don't. Not that I noticed, I suppose. I mean, you mentioned the cloudy days, right? I think that is one good thing to keep in mind is you can go offshore and do the blue water fishing. And we did have some of our guests take advantage of that. They woke up, it was cloudy. They went out to Paris, I think, and like they saw fish out there.
Paris being in the lagoon in the flats.
Yeah, but kind of near the opening to the main part of the ocean. And, I don't know if they suggested it or the guide suggested it, but they were like, man, let's go do some blue water fishing. So they busted out to the outside of the ocean, which from Paris, you're right there. And so they hammered some tuna and wahoo for a few hours. And it was like, man, what a great way to spend what could have been a somewhat, mediocre cloudy day where it's hard to see the fish, right? So anyway, I thought that was a pretty good use of their time. And then we got to eat some fresh fish that night for dinner.
That is a positive of going to the Akari house just based on location.
Yeah, you're near the opening to the ocean.
Yeah, that option and the boat, the efficiency of the boat program they have there is a little bit more efficient for somebody who wants to blue water fish, because we're going to get asked. I mean, we're already getting asked, like, hey, should I go to Christmas Island Lodge or should I go to the Akari house? We'll help kind of spell out, I think the value is equivalent at both lodges. I mean, we've had enough experience at both places now to say, hey, both are going to be great, but they're going to be a little bit different. But if somebody was going to bring conventional gear, just the location of Akari house and being able to do those hybrid days, because you did a hybrid day too, right, Eric, where you did part blue water, part lagoon.
Yeah. So I had not done that before. And, part of that is I don't personally necessarily want to do that, but we had this group of 4 anglers there and 3 of them really wanted to do it. And they're good conventional anglers,
they bring their own gear.
They brought their own gear. They've got the stuff. They know how to do that type of fishing. And 3 of them really wanted to do it. And the one guy was didn't really want to do it. And I was like, well, I'll fill the boat with you and let's go get them. And yeah, I mean, we went out. So we were probably actually, we left the ramp at 7:30, probably started fishing by 8:30. And we were back at the Akari house with a couple fish by 10:30.
You guys got a couple of tuna?
1 tuna and 1 wahoo, and then we were trying to catch a third. We were only going to keep 2, but they caught them so fast they wanted to catch a third and release it. And then the guy hooks this big shark in it. It broke him off at the boat. He's trying to get his lure back.
Like when you say a big shark, it was like a few
7
feet.
foot.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was 7 foot.
Yeah, so that thing's probably 300 pounds. That's my guess. Oh my!
I have a video of it.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
K2's trying to get a rope. He put a rope around the guy's rod, and then tied a knot in it,
so it wouldn't.
So it's a loop, and then he was threading the loop down the main line down to the lure to use the rope loop to pull the hook out.
Huh.
And so he was getting, I mean, you can see in the video, I mean, he's dang close to getting the hook out. And then the shark started to death roll and wrapped in the guy's leader, which I think was an 80-pound mono. Wrapped in the guy's leader and then broke his leader. And then his rope was actually still on the lure for a little bit. So then the guide's wrestling with the shark, trying to get the guy's lure out. And yeah, it's a pretty cool video. But anyway, I mean, yeah, we were very efficient. The Akari house, they have a lodge host there now, and he had a big kill bag, which for anyone that doesn't know, that's basically a big soft cooler that's designed for fish. And we had that thing full of ice, took really good care of those fish. And I mean, they were back at the lodge quick. So
yeah, and you guys were eating ahi right there.
Eating good.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, and that's you can do it on the fly and stuff. And one of the, Steve Johnson had a nice setup that would have been great for that. And I was like, I think we'll use these gear rods,
It's just trolling flies,
it's just trolling flies. So
Yeah, just to speak clearly, because like when I heard about Christmas Island blue water fishing, I always pictured like rolling up on a bait ball and free casting into the middle of the bait ball. And in the times I've blue water fished out there, that is not the experience.
I feel like you could do that. Like I have seen them crashing on bait and stuff, but yeah, we just troll through the bait ball. You know,
they just motor that boat just dead ahead, man.
Yeah.
And you know a double's coming when you go through those.
Oh, you know it.
We did,
and then you're really in for it. Yeah.
Then you're in for if you're using flies, you're gonna fight those fish for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
this was I'd call it a meat mission.
And you guys got to eat. If you got tuna every day, man, for the cost of like ahi at a restaurant, like what you'd have to pay for that, you could eat your entire lodge fee back in tuna. That would be my goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hybrid day, I didn't get to do that on my trip. We did a bunch of stuff. I'll kind of share, my experience last. So was there a particular day or particular fish or hookup that was, especially memorable for you on this trip?
Yeah. I mean, before I get to that, the other one thing I was going to say is, you asked about, did the fishing change throughout the week or, as the tide changed? And, like the first couple of days, we definitely did go in a little bit early. And I was kind of like, man, going in a little early. Well, then you start to realize you're like, oh, well, the tide's all the way out. The fish aren't moving. The fishing wasn't particularly good in the afternoon. So they brought us in a little early. And the end of the week, they were keeping us out there till way late, So like, it kind of evens out. And that certainly seemed to play a factor, just later in the week because those tidal swings had changed, the fishing I thought got better. But man, I caught I was trying to catch GTs. I spent a few days like really targeting the GTs and we got into them. I got into them pretty good with Mark one afternoon. I mean, him and I walked with the guide I bet we walked for 4 miles. And didn't see a darn thing. But we could have at any moment, right? So you got to be ready. And then finally that afternoon, we got into a spot and it was just picture perfect. Like the tide started pushing in. We were kind of a channel where there was a little deeper water. So there was quite a bit of water moving. And so I got probably 3-4 real good opportunities there.
Were they blitzing and coming in hard? Were they slow movers or?
A little bit of both. The biggest one was and that's the one that really stuck with me because it was big. And like we had seen it and we were working our way towards it to get a good cast on it. And like when we first saw it, I kind of was like almost about to take cast, but it would have been a poke and like the wind was tough. So
you can only show it to him once in my opinion.
So we were like, let's not cast, like let's reposition. And then of course a cloud came over. So then all of a sudden it goes, you can't see. We're like, where did he go? Well, we saw he was moving to the left.
So was he pushing water? Was he making a wave at all?
He was in too deep a water to push any, wake, right? So, and he was moving pretty slow. And so we moved left. We're like, only like maybe 40 yards or so, but the direction he was going. And then finally the lights came back on, the sun came out, that cloud blew off. And I'm looking, the guide's looking, and we're about, I don't know, just maybe 10 feet away from a rock, like a big rock, like the size of a fridge. And, we're looking like 40 feet away, 60 feet, trying to find this GT. That thing is on the other side of the rock, 10 feet away, just like slow cruising, looking for snapper or whatever. And it was just, all of a sudden that he was there, the lights came on. I'm like, Mark, look, he's right there. Mark's like, cast. I'm like, I can't cast,
You'll see me move.
I mean, there's a rock. You're in front of, like, the guide was in front of me, which was just bad timing because I was following him, right? And just the way the fish was, the guide kind of ended up in between me and the fish. And so Mark kind of just like slowly ducked and I kind of flopped one out to the left of the rock and like strip that GT came at that fly like a just crazy, and you're like, oh, it might happen. And then of course he saw us both.
Yeah.
Turned and he was gone. I mean, it was like it would have been a big one, right?
Well, those fish are like 30 years old. I mean, they're smart.
Oh yeah.
Those mature
Yeah.
GT, I've seen them be like, they'll go from, the most voracious thug predator fish on the planet to like, spooky and as aware as any permit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To where you pick up for a false cast. And if they're moving slow, and then the second you move that rod, even at 30 or 40 feet, which
They're
when you're
on.
standing in the water, 40 feet's a pretty good distance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're just push, you blow them off the flat, and you're like, oh God, like you only get so many of those in your life, of that high stakes of an opportunity. I think a good sized giant trevally on foot is fly fishing's greatest thrill.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, that same spot, we had another one much smaller that was doing the same thing, cruising real slow. I made a cast, bad cast, like the wind took it. It landed 15 feet away from that fish. And I was just going to strip it back in and recast. I had plenty of time. And I just start stripping it. And all of a sudden that thing sees it and it just takes off after my fly. And it tried to eat it and turn, but it just must not have had my fly because I never felt it or anything. But that was the last afternoon of fishing, and I had spent a few days.
And that was closer to the big moon.
Closer to the big moon.
In all your shots.
Actually, that might have been the day. That night had maybe been the full moon, So, yeah, but that afternoon was real good, and had those fun opportunities stick with you, right? I mean, even if you don't get them, I'm still reliving that. And then it was funny because we got back to the boat, and Pedro, who's Mark's father, is another guide. And you could tell that Mark was telling Pedro about what had just happened, in Gilbertese, their native language. And it's funny how he's reenacting it to his dad and I'm reenacting it to the other anglers, and, Pedro's like, oh man, they do that sometimes, like I could just see him saying that. Right. And,
it's pretty funny. The hands in the air, the body language,
they want you to get it just as bad as you do, but anyway, we had a great time that day.
Now, I saw a picture, one of your fellows managed to beach one of those.
Yeah.
One of those big ones. Dennis, was that who got that?
Well, Dustin got a real big one. Yeah. Okay. He got a few, but one was quite big. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's excellent. Was that later in the week as well? Or
no, that was more like at the beginning of the week.
So there's some random chance to it. Like there isn't like any magic day or snake oil. I mean, we've talked about this for years and years, and you just got to be there. There's some fortune involved. You got to be in the right spot at the right time. What about bonefish? Your bonefish fishing was a little tougher, you said?
Yeah, it was a little tougher. I mean, the clouds didn't help. And then I also just felt like we were seeing a lot of them more like sometimes you get on a flat and it was great and they'd be feeding all over and you could walk across that whole flat. But there were also times when I felt like, the fish would really just be on the edge of that flat. They'd push up on the edge. You'd make some casts, you'd catch a couple or catch one, and then that school would maybe go back off into the deep. They weren't, I don't know why, for whatever reason, it didn't seem like they were just spread out on the whole flat at certain times.
So it was more like groups and schools rather than singles and doubles?
I mean, no, there was sure singles and doubles, but when they were on the edge of those flats, yeah, I mean, it'd be like they'd just push up on the edge, you'd have your chance and then they'd go away. But if you waited there, they'd, I don't know if it was the same group or a different group, they'd come back, right? So, but yeah, I think in general, we did have a little bit more difficult bonefish fishing at times. Sometimes it's as good as it ever was, right? But at times it's hard. But
I found
that's fishing,
Yeah, I found the same thing as well. What was your having caught giant trevally, and obviously you've had all these experiences where I think that you learn a lot even when you aren't able to connect and actually land one. What's kind of your go-to setup for that?
I mean, I guess I like a darker fly, big dark fly. I always felt like the very first time that I went to Christmas Island was with you back in 2019, I think. And I thought back then the guides really preferred those natural colored flies, the mullet looking flies. And it did seem like they were more into the dark colored flies now. I don't know if that's because we can see them better and it's easier for us to see what's going on but anyway, I like a dark colored fly. And 6-8 feet of.
You can certainly track your own fly better if it's black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see exactly where my fly is in relation to, a fish or a situation for sure.
Yeah.
I can see if the tail's hung up. There's a lot of benefits to being able to see that sharp profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and then 6-8 feet of 60 or 80 pound and have at it with an 11 weight. So
I switched tip it a couple times on this trip. I'll share later as to why, but 60 is kind of my go-to.
Yeah.
Most of the GTs that we're catching or targeting are going to be anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds. Those 40 to 80-ish fish are they're pretty rare, and the lagoon is pretty forgiving on leader. Like the obviously the coast, shipwreck coast is different. You're going to deal with a lot more sharp rock there, but I mean, 60 pounds, like you have a really hard time breaking off 60 pound. You can do it on that initial surge. Like if you pull the fighting butt to your stomach as the fish is leaving, you can break any strength of tippet. Those fish are so powerful. And that's the shortest your line's going to be during the fight, right? So if you're at
less
20 or
stretch.
30 feet, exactly, you have less stretch. So you can break the knot on 80 pound, 60, 40, 20, whatever. But it has more to do with that abrasion resistance than the pure tensile.
Oh yeah, I caught the best bluefin I've ever caught, which was, I don't know, maybe a 20-pound bluefin, something like that.
It was a damn nice bluefin.
Super nice. Yeah. But that thing wrapped me around a rock and I could feel it, and it came off, and I got my line back, and I was like, what is on my line? Did I catch someone else's line? I mean, that line he had nearly like split the line in two at one place. So it was like frayed in two.
So you ruined the line.
The leader. I'm sorry.
The leader. Oh, he spaghettied your leader out.
Oh, I mean, it was like trash. I mean, I had to put a brand new piece of leader on, right? And that was just on a 20-pound bluefin, so.
Yeah, you're doing it for the abrasion resistance.
Yeah.
Not that you need.
Yeah, not that you need
the
that.
fish is going to break you off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like how a 3-pound bonefish could break you off in the coral on 16 pound.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. It's rubbing you off.
Yeah, they just nick it and it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you don't do anything wrong. It's just they happen to, especially bonefish, they like to run deep and fight deep. They're not jumpers that dig the bottom. And what rod were you pitching?
That was that Winston, the Air 2 Max. I really liked that rod. I had used it some in the past, but I cast a lot, and I did a fair bit of blind casting at times. And
did you ever throw that rod with the like a little smaller fly?
Well, I was using that 6-aught magnetic minnow. I mean, those things cast pretty good.
Yeah.
Either that or that GT mullet.
So I threw the 4-aught magnetic mullet at the wreck because I was trying to catch a nice bluefin.
The 2-aught?
The 2-aught. I threw the 2-aught, dude. And the 2-aught on that 11 weight was like casting a bonefish fly.
I bet that thing
casted so good.
Fly
I was like, man, this with a tarpon fly would be like hero casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, fly size has such a huge impact on line speed. So Air 2 Max performed awesome. And how much better has your casting got on these trips?
Oh, just tremendous. I mean, and it's not because, it's purely because you're casting a lot for days on it, right?
Unlike a Grand Slam trip from the boat, like if you go to name your Grand Slam trip, ESB or Ascension Bay or Cuba or whatever, you're taking very calculated shots at a few tarpon, a few permit, right?
Yeah, not doing a lot of casting.
Correct. In Christmas Island, you're like, oh, there's a triggerfish. Oh, let me try it. Let me check that bonefish over there.
Yeah.
GTs, you can wait and watch for GTs, but you're going to want to blind cast. I mean, you're going to want to check a little cut here and a ledge there, and you're going to blast that 11 weight out or whatever it is. But man, I was thinking on this trip, like, I've been to Christmas Island quite a few times and a lot of saltwater fishing. I'm like, 10 years ago, I thought I was a pretty good caster. And I'm like, man, today, just what you know about how to problem solve your backhand casts, your odd winds, your odd positions, or larger flies or whatever it is. I'm like, God, even my casting has gotten so much better thanks to Christmas Island. Like,
oh, absolutely. Well, and you're always dealing with the wind. And I mean, my back, like you were saying, my backhand cast, I mean, you can launch that thing out there because you've done it hundreds of times because you're dealing with that wind, and you just wouldn't do that. I mean, yeah, like you're saying,
And you don't cast the wrong direction first and hit your
yeah.
catcher
Well,
wrong.
you're like, I know I can't cast
Yeah.
this way, so I'm not even going to try to do
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah, I think maybe what you guys are referring to is carrying, because like, as hosts, we're largely unguided. Like we're like guided 10% of the time or whatever. We're being guided, but we're not with a guide. So we're carrying our own extra rods. So that could be a bonefish rod, it could be a GT rod or a triggerfish rod. Bonefish and triggerfish are pretty similar as far as setup, but yeah, the first morning I snagged my extra rod like 3 times.
Yeah.
And it was always when I had a really nice opportunity at a good sized bonefish. And that happened 3 times in about the first hour of the first day. I want to say after that, for the remainder of the 6 days, I don't think I snagged my rod once. My backhand cast, which I used to think I was a pretty good backhand caster until I saw a couple of flats guides, see a proper high line speed, mega distance, super accurate backhand cast. And I'm like, I haven't even been doing it right. Like I've been kind of like leading with the back of my hand instead of the top of my hand. I don't anybody listening to podcasts can visualize that. But there's some little nuance to throwing a high line speed, super sharp backcast. Like it is way harder than what people think. People think, oh, I can backcast. Well, they kind of throw it out there and the wind knocks it down 15 feet left and you're way short. And like actually throwing one that lands like a laser beam on the water is damn hard. But I think there's just the pure number of casts you get to make in a day strengthen your salt fishing tremendously.
Yeah, and you're not trading bow time. You're fishing all the time. So even if you're not with the guide, you're still fishing, and yeah, so it's just great for that. I mean, it's just a super good way to become a better fisherman. No matter what you're doing, it's gonna correlate to something else.
Well, break down your rod and reel and line setups that you fish for us.
Well, so yeah, I had the Winston on the 11 weight. That was with that SA GT line, and I hate it doesn't come with a loop, and so I use that re-loop that kind of melts it, and I made my own loop with that, and that worked pretty good.
Did you fish it with the braided first and then re-loop it?
No.
So you just went straight to the re-loop?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have an Able Rove on there, and that thing's always done pretty good. And then my bonefish setup, same deal. I was using that Winston with the Flats Pro, I think is what I had on there. That thing casts great on that Winston. With that new Hardy rig.
Oh, the Zane carbon.
Yeah, that thing's sweet.
Is it clean?
Yeah. I wish it was the drag isn't very loud, when the fish is pulling. I wish it was a little louder so my buddy that's 100 yards away would know. But other than that, it's pretty cool.
Bobby's going to be the first guy in Christmas Island in 40 years to use a click pole reel.
Yeah, I want everyone to know.
And so fly choice, it sounds like you're running the giant magnetic minnow for GTs most of the time. What about bonefish? Did you have a takeaway on bonefish flies? Like what was
big surprise? I like Christmas Island specials.
Yeah.
I tied a lot of my own flies for this trip, way more than I normally do. And, I like the like a size 6, and I like the bead chain eyes if the tide isn't moving too much. But I'll just say in general, like I tied them a little too sparse. I probably should have tied them a little more on them, to be honest.
What tippet did you run? Did you run for bonefish, and did you find the tippet size or leader to make a difference?
I did. I usually run 16, and I did drop down to 12 because I felt like it was a little spooky on one particular flat, and I wasn't with the guide when I did that. And then I was with a guide, maybe it was that afternoon or the next morning. And I mean, these guys, they do it every day. He just grabbed my fly to look at it, and he was like, "Is this 12 pound?" It's like, how did he know? and he's like, "I think we should put 16 on."
Man, well, here's something to consider. If the guide can see it and tell the difference, you think the fish can tell the difference?
I think the fish might be able to tell.
Dude, because I wound up running 12.
Yeah.
I normally, and Eric will weigh in here in a second.
Eric probably run 20.
Dude, I normally run 20 because the fish I hope to catch is probably going to require some very heavy tippet. Dude, those fish, like the bonefish fishing at times was like it felt literally impossible. And they would see my fly or my leader, I'm not sure which, and they would just blow off the flat. Man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spook them with the cast. I wouldn't do anything necessarily wrong, but man, they would, if they followed, they might just follow and not eat it. But like a lot of times they would just be moving toward my fly. Like maybe I put a 20-foot lead on them and got lucky and the fish wandered my direction. And then I would draw it tight. And I think that leader was coming up out of the sand. And they would just see that leader and just blow off the flat. And so I wound up going to 16. And then the lightest spool I brought was 16. I didn't even follow our own Red's packing list. And I had one pure fluorocarbon Scientific Anglers 12-foot, 12-pound leader. And I put that on there and I noticed a significant difference in my conversions. Like I hooked up.
Other leaders not pure fluorocarbon?
No, man, I'm cheap. Like I was running permit leaders, because they're 16 pounds and they turn over in the wind good. And man, I was spooking a lot of fish. I mean, I caught some, but I found the tippet size to make a difference. And I wasn't breaking so many fish off that the 12-pound was inconvenient. The downside is like you have no chance at a trigger fish like on 12-pound. I mean, they're gonna take you in the coral and snap you off in about 3 seconds.
Yeah, if you can hook them.
If you can hook them. Yeah, they proved to be a pretty wily adversary on this trip. But I found that to be lighter. What about general gear? Was there any gear that you're like, I'm so glad I brought that, I couldn't live without it?
I mean, standard stuff, right? I mean, whatever, flats, boots, I really am a big fan of wearing the neoprene sock. I just think keeping your feet healthy and not all, roughed up from any of the coral sand is essential. You're putting so many days in.
What boots were you wearing?
The Sims flat sneaker. Yeah.
Did how many guys had Corker salt sneakers on your trip?
Maybe just one. Maybe just Ken. But yeah.
What about you? How many people had Corkers?
Maybe 4 of us, but we had 22 guys.
Yeah. I had probably a little closer to half my guys in Corkers and half in Sims.
They like them.
There was an Orvis pair or two. They really liked them because they're light and they're nice on the boat and etc. And I ended up, I was gonna get the Corkers, but then I went home to my garage and I found a set of Sims sneakers in my garage. And so I was like, well, I really wanted the Corkers. I want to try them, but the Corkers are much lighter. Like for that rough coral, the guys said that they could feel the bumps and rocks, especially when we fished the open coastline at the Korean wreck. The Corkers weren't as hardy as the Sims sneaker. And I think for Christmas Island, maybe the Sims sneaker would be a little better product, or the Orvis. I haven't worn the Orvis. Who wears the Orvis?
So I have a pair.
Yeah. I mean, I bought the Corkers, right? Because I gave my Sims ones to the guide last year. They just didn't fit. They were just a little bit not the right size, So perfect way to, get rid of them. And, that's great. And then I bought the Corkers. And very comfortable, very light, but I don't know that they're going to last the same.
That's what Ken said on my trip.
I mean, like the wear on them compared to the Sims that I had is quite a bit worse.
Yeah, so if somebody's trying to get 3 or 4, 5, 6 trips. I wish I bought
the Orvis ones.
Yeah, if they're trying to get, the Corkers are light. They would be maybe good for like Belize, maybe 1 trip to Christmas Island. But that was the feedback was the same on my group. They had no issue with them other than they could feel the sharp coral right through their soul, the pointy stuff.
Oh, I had no problem with comfort. I'm not a small, light guy, so no problems there. But I just don't know that they're going to hold up the same. And then they don't dry very good at all.
Oh, really?
They hold water very long time.
Huh.
And then, and I didn't get the Orvis because I don't really love the way they look, right?
Yeah.
But actually, once you get on the water, they don't look bad. And Max, who was co-hosting the trip with me, he bought those. Dude, and the seal, kind of thought Jeremiah maybe was
on the ankle.
He was just selling it, But dude, the seal he had we both were wearing the 0.5 mil neoprene socks from Orvis. And then that ankle on the Orvis boot, when he would zip that thing up with that thing, the seal was awesome. So you just have a nice thin sock, no big gravel guard, but he still had a nice seal. I kind of think those are the way to go.
Ah, the
And
orbs.
Yeah.
that kind of zippered gaiter, if you will, keeps no sand is getting in your laces and all that stuff. They were cool.
I had the Orvis, and I didn't know you were supposed to wear it with the 0.5 sock. And so I
You
would
had
get
a
a
big
little.
sock.
No, I didn't have a sock.
Oh,
I just thought the seal was enough. And so I did get sand in there, and it wasn't
Yeah.
comfortable wearing it all day. But if you're doing a trip to Mexico or anywhere else, and you're not going to be waiting all day.
Yeah.
And what I did like is you don't even need to lace them. You can just zip them up. If you're just going to jump in quick,
Sure.
you don't need to lace them necessarily. You just zip it up and hop in if you're just going to wait.
It's a good boot. Yeah. Don't worry about how they look in the store. Like,
Hey, wow,
they look
it
just
looks like
fine
you're
on
going
the
to the
water.
moon.
Dude,
I call them the Tron boot. Yeah.
Tron boot. Dude, they look like a cross-country ski boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd zip over the laces to keep the snow out of them. What'd you run for glasses?
I wore my Bajíos and then my Costas, the Costa green mirror. And then I really like that violet mirror if it's cloudy at all from Bajío.
Same exact set. I ran my Costa greens, and there was times during the day. Two things to share here, and Eric will have a lot of input on sunglasses, right? But our local optics expert. But yeah, there were times like one, in the morning, I'd wear my violet mirrors. Those are extremely good low light glass, and then at some point during the morning time, they probably have enough sunscreen and sea salt and stuff on them that I gotta do a pretty thorough cleaning on them anyways. And about that time, I would switch over to my Costas. And at night, I would wash my glasses in soap and water and then really polish them up every night. So I had two really super clean sets of glasses where I didn't have sunscreen on the frame and stuff that can then get, kind of transmitted to the lens if you brush the lens across your hand or the side of your face or something. So I would switch up, and man, it made a big difference. There was one day when I was fishing at the Korean wreck where I was kind of lazy and I didn't switch out to my green lens when the sun was really high and really blue. And at one point, on the coast, like the fishing, you walk the flat between the reef and the beach, and there's a lot of waves and a lot of chaos and stuff. And at one point, the guide was with Ron Elzig, the other fisherman, and we're close enough that we can all hear. And so I could hear Monty, the guide, spot a couple of bluefins. And he's like, yeah, he was describing, he's like 60 feet. He's pointing. Of course, I'm cheating, and I'm listening to him guiding Ron into it. I'm like, I should be able to see those fish. And I couldn't see them, man. I was like, I couldn't pick them up. And then until they were, too close, they kind of got in too tight. And then I switched at launch to my green lenses, and I could see much better in that bright light with my green lenses.
I'm a big fan of bringing just those lens wipes and, midday cleaning them off, and give one to your guide because you want him seeing the fish too,
That's a great tip. I've been kind of anti disposable lens wipes because I don't like all the microplastic, or not just the trash, And so I've been kind of on a campaign against those things. Well, I went and stole a bunch out from under Eric's desk.
Yeah.
Eric wasn't there. And I found that box of them you had under your desk. I took like 60 of those.
Yeah, they're great.
And I gave them to all the customers and a bunch of the guides. I was a kingpin by the end of the week because a lot of people had kind of ran out of them. But, I was washing my glasses at night. I thought that was a really worthy tip to share on the podcast, with soap and water to get all the oils and stuff off them, and then really cleaning them up nice with a proper lens cloth. And then I brought a spray bottle of actual cleaner, and I left that in my room. And I wish I'd brought that and several lens cloths during the day, because spraying the alcohol-based stuff on there really breaks down the oils. And man, it makes a big difference. You'd clean those glasses, and you felt like you had a unfair advantage.
Yeah.
What did you run for lenses?
Man, I almost always just wear the low lights anymore.
I wore my low lights more than my greens.
I didn't wear the greens once.
Really?
I didn't wear the greens once. I wore the roses one day.
I wear the greens way more than the low lights.
I don't know if it's because I have really dark eyes, so I don't know if that's the thing. Because even when it's bright, it's not like my eyes ever hurt. I just feel like I can see better.
There were a few times, man, it'd be cloudy and I'd be wearing those low light glasses and the cloud would move out of the way and it would go bright, man. And I could just feel, I would just feel my eyes just go, whoa, no, that's bad, man. Like,
yeah. And I don't get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I can just see, because I know it's a difference for me. And that's the thing. You need to fish and experiment a little bit and see what works for you, you know? I really like the green mirrors when I'm trout fishing, right? And I'm just looking on the water, not looking in the water. But yeah, I'm like, there was one day I wore the roses.
Oh, that's an interesting statement you just said.
Yeah. When I'm looking on the water and I just want my eyes to be relaxed and stuff, it's totally different than looking in the water.
So when you're watching dry flies or you're watching indicators and you're watching for feeders, like maybe you're guiding trout, the darker lenses and the green are great for picking up those nuances on the surface, like right in the midst of perhaps some glare. But when you're trying to dig in, you really prefer the low light.
Yeah, and like I said, that's just my eyes. Like, and I noticed when, like, one day I did switch to the roses because that's a really good all-around flats lens. Yeah, I switched the rose, and then I was having a really good day, so I wanted the guy to catch some fish, and so he was fishing a little bit, and then man, like the lights went out pretty good, and like I could just tell, because I would see a fish, and then it would get into a little bit worse light, and I couldn't see it or whatever, and then when I switched back to the other lens, I could see pretty good.
Oh, dude, I knew he would have some good intel, man.
Versus when it was the other one, right? When it would get in that tougher light, I could still see the fish.
Anybody can see the fish when it's on the bottom, coming over the sand, right? Like, okay, I can see the fish, but as soon as it gets into like a mixed bottom or a coral, what you're saying is those lower light glasses bring that fish out of the bottom that would normally be harder to identify the fish.
So I just wouldn't have that moment where I've lost the fish and I got to refine him. I can see him the whole time. And like I said, like there was certainly a couple times where it was really good sun and you're like, you know, it probably would be nice to have my greens on right now. But it seems like your Bob was saying, how the light changes a lot. It just never was long enough. Like about the time I would be like, man, I really wish I had my other glasses on. Well, I'd get a cloud.
Yeah.
And then you're thankful you still have the low lights.
But you're wearing the rose.
No, I wore the violet more this time. Yeah. The rose is really nice though.
Because the rose is just, it's not, it blocks a little more light than the violet.
Yeah.
Just
the
like
rose is money. Yeah. It's hard to, but I did wear the violet.
The bottom line is that, like, if you're going to Christmas Island or any saltwater trip, it's unanimous. Get the violet mirror lens from Bahia. Like, everybody loves
Please have both.
Please have both.
Oh, yeah.
Please have both, and please take really good care of them, and you'll be so happy. Because you can do what we were saying. Like, you can try these different ones, and you can see what works good for you. I mean, if you got really light blue eyes, hey, maybe the green's the way to go for you. But,
hey, what was your... Okay. I'm going to go through Bob's trip. We'll get a lot of breakdown here. Let's focus on Eric now. Let's badger him. Okay. What was your most memorable catch or near catch on the trip?
I mean, probably the most memorable fish of the trip wasn't a fish that I caught. It was, our best bonefish day. Like I said, we were just having a great day, and I was sledding Bob fish, which was super entertaining. Because
the guide?
Yes, because the guide is so calm and everything when you're fishing. And I'm like, I caught a couple bonefish on the splat right away. And I'm like, okay, Bob, like, now you got to catch one, right? And so I had to convince him to fish, but I got him convinced to fish. And so he's throwing it in, and he's not a great caster, but so, he's hitting the bonefish on the head, spooking them and cussing, and it's just so funny, right? And we're trying really hard to get him a fish. And then we had some radios so me and Max could communicate, because sometimes you get a little bit away from each other. And
Max was
co-hosting the trip with me. Yeah.
Yeah. For those listening, Max is one of our guides that also hosts travel.
Yeah.
And he was, he was kind of Eric's, Eric's first mate, so to speak. So you and Max had radios so you could communicate amongst one another. And Max landed a damn nice bonefish.
So that's what I was getting to. So that was the most memorable fish, I think, for me, was he radioed, because he was maybe 500 yards away, that he had just a super bonefish on, right? So me and the guide hiked over there, and we got over to Max right as he's landing this, probably 5.5 pound, really nice bonefish, and we got to take some pictures, and that was
Nice.
super cool. They caught all by himself, big tailing bonefish, and you know how like they just get wide,
Yeah.
because like the picture, it's a nice bonefish, but like it's not like it doesn't just blow you away, right? But when you're seeing it in person, it's just the width on those fish and the big eye.
They do, like, compared to like a steelhead of similar length, the bonefish is going to be much heavier because they widen out.
Yeah.
They're super fat.
Yeah, so that was the most memorable. And
you had a couple GT shots, right?
yeah, I probably had 4 good shots, 2 really good shots. And one of them was that same day, earlier in the day, we were fishing this small pancake flat. And it was actually, this was really cool too. We just got dropped off, and it's like this circular table, right? Max went one way and I went the other, and we just eventually all met in the middle because we were walking the edge. It was low tide, so the fish were just on the edge. And I'm, bone fishing, and I can see it was really beautiful. Like you just had this shallow, 2-inch, 3-inch deep pancake, and then maybe 10 feet of the edge was 10 inches deep. So that's where the bonefish were. And then the edge was just stark blue, beautiful blue water. And I can see this GT swimming right on the edge of the blue water, super slow. Then I just put my bonefish rod on the bottom.
So you just dropped in the water. Yeah.
I didn't. Well, people always say drop the rod or whatever. I mean, I gently set the rod on the ground.
Oh, I had a time. I threw it.
Yeah. This wasn't. I mean, he was going so slow. I had time. I just
Yeah.
gently set the bonefish rod on the bottom, and it was actually kind of funny. I thought about just throwing the bonefish fly at it, and then I was like, no, that's stupid. Like, so I put it on the bottom.
Take your time. Yeah.
Got the GT rod out, had the drag backed off so I could get the line out. And I mean, it's going to be like 20 feet. So, I mean, that's the other thing. There was no stress because it was going to be an easy cast. And I cranked her back down, and I led the fish super far. And I remember just stripping, just 2 big strips. And now it's like in line with it, but it's probably 15, 20 feet ahead of the fish. And that GT went from just normal to on the flat eating my fly. I mean, it was just like you didn't even have time to understand that he ate your fly. He just came over and ate it.
I swear your eye can't even move fast enough to track them when they eat.
No, it was just whoosh. And he came, like I said, he came on the flat, kind of sideways, ate the fly, tried to give him one of those little strips, good strip set.
Big strip set.
And I felt him, and I could just see the fly come out. So I don't really know what went wrong there, but that was pretty cool. And then we had some other good shots. I had one more where, like, you feed it. It was cool. There was this little, the first morning was good GT fishing. Max had some good shots. I had a shot. We couldn't convert anything, but like, when he was fishing on the other side of the flat, the GTs were blowing bait and stuff. So it was cool because you could see that the other guy was getting shots at GT, and you could see the fish actually reacting. And then the last day we were fishing actually the same flat as the very first morning.
What flat were you on?
Long Point, which we've definitely fished there before.
I don't know the name.
It has some islands, and it's a really beautiful flat. And at higher tides, so the last morning was high tide in the morning. It's good for GT. And there's like this little small little peninsula, right? And then there's a bay on either side. And I was standing on one side looking, and then just the way the light was, the farther side you could see really well. And there's 2 GTs, maybe like 35 pounds, not really big ones, but like ones you would love to catch. They're coming slow in this other bay. So I walked out to the point because it was perfect, right? They're coming to where you can go out in front of them and not spook them. And so I got out there, and I made one shot, and they just didn't see the fly. I think it was kind of deep, and I don't think the fly was at the right level. And then I cast it again and let the fly sink some at the beginning and strip. And he came, and they'll do this a lot. Like you're saying, they'll come hard like they're going to eat it. And then they just turn away at the fly. And there's kind of a little splash, So yeah, I had some GT shots and stuff, but we didn't like spend a lot of time focusing on it or anything, which is cool. I mean, we had good bone fishing. I mean, and we went into the trip knowing from your report that the bone fishing had been tougher. And the first day was definitely still tough. But then really the second day on, the bone fishing got way better. And
Yeah, on the back end of the full moon, right?
Yes, and part of that too was we had some storms come through a couple afternoons, like bad ones.
I saw the pictures. It was pouring.
Yeah, and rough water and stuff. And the guides will tell you that really mixes the fish up and kind of resets everything. And so it might suck when that's happening, unfortunately. But the back end of that, to say the next day or when that clears off, the fishing was definitely better. The bite was better.
2 years ago, we had the worst storms. I mean, we had all that standing water in the streets. The guides they couldn't even get anywhere with vehicles. We couldn't go to the backcountry because the roads were impassable. And it was the worst weather I've ever had. But when we had light and could fish, it was the best fishing I'd ever had too. But it was like it shuffles the deck on those fish.
Yeah.
They wind up on a little different flat. Those big winds come up, and I'm sure that affects the food movement. And so all of a sudden the food if it's been real stagnant, the food has consistently been moving one direction, consistently doing one thing. And all of a sudden you get a storm and the wind's pushing food one way, the tide's pushing it another way. The bonefish kind of shuffle and reposition themselves. And I could see how that might make them vulnerable. What about your rigs? What were you fishing for gear?
Yeah. Well, I fished those same 2 rods, which,
the Winstons?
Which our Winston rep graciously let us borrow. So that was really good. And then I had, for reels on my bonefish rod, I have a Hatch 7 Plus that was a nice gift a few years ago. So I really like fishing that reel. And then I fished an Enforcer that I have on the 11. And then I brought a 9-10 Enforcer as a backup. And I like those reels. I like the number drag system. The price is really attractive and the quality is really good. So I like that for a saltwater reel.
Oh, I've never had a problem with Sage reels. Bob still has one that is ancient.
Yeah, you gave it to me and I had to send it in and they put a new drag in on it or something. And
but that was the first time.
Yeah, that was in 2019. Yeah. So I still have it. Now I have that fancy Hardy, so the Sage is, kind of kicked to the back burner. It's still a backup. It's a good backup,
For GT though, or even just fishing on a flat skiff, there is an advantage to the numbered drag. Being able to back it off and then immediately turn it to right where you want it.
Know where you're at
is a huge advantage. It's very convenient. On a bonefish rod, like the drag, I like it on. You still pull line off. It's not that big of a deal. But on the bigger stuff, there's something nice.
He's assuming we're going to remember to reset our drag.
Yeah. And what number to go to.
Yeah. 3 was nice to leave it on. And then 12 was like.
Oh, he's cranking it to 12.
This one goes to 12.
12 was still pretty good.
So you guys threw the Winstons. Those are damn fast rods. But you threw Flats Pro.
They feel fast, like when you're lawn cast them. But once you load it up with a slightly overweighted line and stuff, I was surprised. They didn't fish as fast as I thought they would.
There was a guy on my trip, Jordan. He'd done saltwater fishing first time Christmas Island.
Yeah.
But he had a bonefish taper on that Winston. And he didn't love it. And I think it's too light.
Well, and I think that real elite bonefish is such a great line. The color's so great. The taper nothing lays a fly down like a real elite bonefish.
Well, those elite bonefish are heavy.
No, they're true to line.
No, they're not.
Yes, it is.
We'll have to
Google it.
It's true to line side.
It's absolutely not.
Yes, 100%.
It has to be true.
Eric, you're rarely wrong. But
I would do a 1 bump on that line for Christmas Island, I think.
I fished a Flats Pro and I fished sextants the whole week. So I fished an 11-weight sextant and an 8-weight sextant. And I've just found that TNT sextant to be crazy reliable.
I probably would have got Steve to bring the 8-weight sextant too. But I did want to try the Winston because I hadn't got to fish it. And that TNT sextant has got so much love over the years. You're kind of wondering, when's its number going to come in?
Well,
Dude,
I broke that rod in Christmas Island
Yeah.
a few
I
years
mean, that
ago.
rod's been fished so much.
well, we have 2 of them in the office.
Oh, it's a great bone.
Of the
Two,
8-weight?
2 8-weights.
Oh,
We have 2 8-weight sextants. I brought them both, and you're right, man, because that thing, I didn't realize Bobby had broke one of them, but that rod has been crazy reliable. I mean, for the amount of abuse, you're right, because we loan that rod out all the time. We all take that rod, we beat the hell out of it, and the thing just keeps on working.
Yeah.
So I fished sextants the whole week. I fished an 8 and 11. In the future, going back, well, it was a question for you guys, and I think I've already led the witness a little bit, but would you guys consider just using 9s for bonefish there?
I don't think so because of, it was a little techy. I mean, like, and even sometimes when I wanted to throw a lead-eye fly, I didn't.
You throw bead chain almost exclusively.
Almost exclusively because, if you spook the fish when the fly lands, there's no way you're going to catch it.
Mm,
If you land the fly and maybe it's a little lighter than you'd like, but you're still in the game. And we did get, unlike Bob's trip, I mean, we did fish to a lot of tailing bonefish and a lot of bonefish in skinny water. So we didn't encounter a lot of current. So I didn't feel like a 9. Max did fish a 9 the first day with a permit line. And then he switched to his 8-weight with a bonefish taper. And like, it was certainly a difference maker for him.
yeah, that's good input, because I was thinking about going to a 9. One for reliability.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be a little bit tougher. And some of those backhand shots in the wind, like a little heavier line weight's often a little bit more accurate. We're probably splitting hairs here, but I hadn't really considered a 9, to be a real relevant bonefish rod until this trip. And we had major wind early in the week.
Yeah.
So my first 3 days we had major wind, pretty steady 20 to 30 mile an hour wind, which it's like a constant wind at Christmas Island. It's not gusty.
Okay.
It's not like it's not like a 20 mile an hour wind where it's 5 miles an hour 1 minute and 40 the next. It's pretty steady.
Yeah.
And that definitely made the visibility and the fishing much tougher. I mean, like when you looked at the forecast, like there was a windy symbol on like the first 3 or 4 days, like, and you just click it and you're like, yeah, we're going to get, 25 mile an hour wind all day. So I was considering a 9, but I fished the sextants. I fished my old T-bores, thanks to Bob. I serviced my T-bores for the first time ever. I'd never even touched them, but I was like, well, they're probably due for a little tune up. So I cleaned them and greased them. You talked me through that. There was one grease for like the metal parts and there was one grease for the cork. And I think I got it right because they worked pretty well. Switching up to the 12-pound definitely made a big difference. But I had a couple of instances, my fishing was, I would say, very just kind of mediocre. I think the big wind had a part to do with it. We were there leading up to the full moon, and the full moon happened like the day we're leaving. And so early in the week was more of, those tides change really quick there day to day.
Yeah.
The time changes and then the intensity changes pretty fast. And early in the week, the first morning we had about an hour and a half or 2 that was really good bonefish fishing. And I started filming and I was like, oh, we're going to make a cool video out of this. After my second bonefish walk, I was like, we're in for it. Like this is going to be really tough. And I quit filming at that point. I was like, I just need to try to catch fish and enjoy myself because I'm just going to get frustrated trying to make a documentary out of mediocre fishing.
Yeah.
But, mediocre or average at Christmas Island is still very good.
Yeah.
The guests that hadn't been there before were elated. And I was like, man, these fish are a little tougher. They're a little pickier. They're a little spookier. But I did have a couple of instances in looking back. I had three instances that really special things happened. One of them was on Orvis Flat, and it was like our third walk of the day. I think it was our second day in the lagoon, and I had a big fish coming down the edge towards me, but in the shallow water. And when I first looked at it, I go, oh, really nice GT. And I had my bonefish rod in my hand, and I started to put my bonefish rod away. I can't tell you how many casts I threw holding the rod between my legs. I should have just put it in the water like you guys suggest, but I was constantly switching between rods and I got pretty fast. And unfortunately, those Paragon rod holders hadn't got here prior to my trip, so I was still just snapping it in with my waist strap of my backpack. Well, I go to throw at this, what I think is a GT, and then I look at it, I go, Dude, that's a freaking bonefish.
Big one, huh?
Dude, I'm telling you, I've never seen a bonefish like this. I've caught a couple that I would say like are 8 pounds. Like
Yeah.
the biggest, 2 probably at 8 and a couple at 6 or 7. This fish was like, if somebody was to have caught that fish later that day or something, or like somehow I could validate what it was, if I could speak directly to God and be like, God, like tell me how big a bonefish I missed there. If somebody said it was 14 pounds, now 15 would be a little stretching it. I guarantee it was well over 10.
Wow.
Dude, it was like a different creature. And I go, dude, that's a freaking bonefish. I mean, it was like, dude, it was like this wide. Like I was like, and it's just happy. It's just belly crawling. It's so fat. It's like using its fins.
Yeah.
It was like army crawling across the flat towards me. And it was like, it wasn't very far away. It was moving very slow. I was very happy. I switched rods. I made a very nice cast at it and made a couple of little, tested it with a real slow strip to see if that would draw him over. And the slow initial strip drew him to the fly. And then I shrimp bumped it a little bit. And then he just refused, man, and went off the flat. And literally, you would think, like, if you haven't fished bonefish much, you would think, like, after an interaction like that, it would be like trout fishing where they just kind of wander the other direction. Dry fly fishing for trout, if they don't eat it or refuse it, they go back where they were, and then they continue feeding on what they want. This bonefish freaking left. I mean, he left. I never set the hook. He never ate it. None of that happened. He was gone, and I was like, dude, I sat there just going, what in the world did I just see? Like, Christmas Island's a destination you can have, like, if I were to find out that was the world record bonefish, which is like, 16 pounds or something, I would be like, yeah, of course. Like, it was that big. And it was 5 times the size of anything else I'd cast at. Like 5 times.
Yeah, that's
size.
crazy.
Yeah. And then, so, I caught a handful of bonefish. I never got a bonefish that was 5 pounds. I mean, I certainly threw it some, but they were really difficult. And I wish I'd made adjustments to smaller flies. One thing I did prove, and Kenny G, I know you're probably listening, he's been poking fun at me about the bonefish fly. He says that thing doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Dude.
I am like you. I like fishing the shrimp flies.
Well, that fly, I don't know why. Last time I was there, I freaking pounded him on it. This time, they would look at it. I think I was throwing a bonefish butter at that big bonefish. I should have taken his advice because that fly sucked, man. I threw it in the big sizes. I threw it in the small sizes. I tried it, and it's got like a UV purple body on it. Yeah. And I've caught a lot of bonefish on that thing. But, man, on this trip, I don't think I caught but maybe 1 bonefish on it. And I'm very stubborn. I'll go back to that fly. But I ended up throwing some really little, I don't even know the name, really little bead chain eye rabbit strip with a pink belly and a couple little rubber legs. Yeah, it might have been bonefish scampi.
Or bonefish bug, maybe? Or
no, I caught a few on the bonefish bug, but I think you're right. I think it's a bonefish scampi. It's got a pink belly. And so I did best on that. And I caught plenty of bonefish. I landed 12 before lunch on the last day, which was like, they were singles. They were, short of being big. I mean, I saw it at very difficult times. And then I did see certain hours and like certain bonefish walks were amazing. And so I did see it like at its best at different times. But then we'd go to another flat and we'd find great big bonefish in low tide and the skinny water. And we fished them over coral a lot. And the challenge you had there was if you didn't put the fly right on the fish and get it to eat on the first or second strip, you couldn't catch them because you would snag so fast.
Yeah.
Even with, I took my pliers and I cut the bead chain eyes off a fly. I was like, well, I'm going to throw them unweighted and try not to snag. Then they kind of ride hook down and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't fish very good. Yeah.
It doesn't work. They have to ride kind of hook up in order to slide it across the bottom. But I did one walk where I must have thrown it 20 tailors and couldn't catch a single one because I would snag up all the time. So you'd try to play to win and, throw it tight to them. But I never did get a really big bonefish. I did hook a GT on the coast, throwing a clouser minnow. I told you that. I don't know if you ever tried clousers on the coast in the big waves and stuff.
We didn't really, when we were there, you couldn't fish off the edge. It was all on the flat.
Well, that's where I was throwing them, was on the flat.
Just did a little bit.
And I felt like that clouser, I started to catch a bit higher percentage of the bluefin I was throwing at when I threw the weighted fly. And I felt like that was just more stable and instead of riding up a wave and down a wave. Because the waves were coming into the flat pretty good.
Yeah.
Like we still had good waves.
Max threw a big clouser that I gave him out there. He caught some bluefin. He had a pretty interesting day out there. I mean, like I just was trying to trevally fish, so I caught a few bluefin and had some shots at some bigger ones and saw one really nice GT. But
Yeah, you saw like a 70-pounder out there, didn't
real
you?
big GT. I mean, and it was real silver, so it was pretty cool. But it wasn't a good shot. I mean, he's just kind of coming in on a wave. But yeah, Max caught one of those silver trevally, which was cool. I've never seen him catch one of those. They're real dorky looking.
Yeah, they have a weird mouth.
The mouth is a little upturned. The dorsal fins way far back on their body.
Those aren't a trevally, man. I don't know.
He said it looked like reminded him of a pompano.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reminded him of a pompano. But he did catch some bluefin on a big clouser out there.
The clouser was good for me, so I tied that on my 8-weight with 20-pound for bluefin, and it catches most of the bluefin fine. Well, then I had a GT come in like really shallow, just working towards me. And I threw a beautiful backhand shot. Like it was within 1 or 2 degrees of the angle because he was coming straight at me. And that thing freaking pounded that clouser. I stuck it good. And 20-pound is strong. Like I fished 25 for all the giant rooster fish. I've landed some enormous fish on 20-pound. I mean, shoot, most of the world IGFA world records have been landed on 20-pound. Like, but that GT ripped out of the flat and just raked me right across. It goes down one of the little crevasses, and dude, it was over in 10 seconds or less. Yeah. I mean, dude, it just went just rooster tailed out, ping, and I was like, oh my god, felt like I'd been pantsed. And then I did hook what would have been my nicest bluefin and had it right to my feet, but I didn't have. I'm just making excuses at this point. I should have walked it all the way back to the beach, but instead I tried to leader it in like thigh deep water. And I grabbed the leader and it went berserk. It was about a 20-pounder. I mean, like for a bluefin, that's a very nice fish.
Yeah.
And it just went berserk when I grabbed that leader, and it didn't break. It just came off. So that was pretty cool. And that was when I spotted myself, made a beautiful long cast. Like that was a great moment where everything actually went right. And again, leadered the fish and lost it. So I wish I would have got a photo of that one. But and then I had that one instance, I only had one. I had about a 2-hour period where I actually saw GTs in the lagoon. And that was it for the whole week for me. But I was walking down a flat, like the guide is a mile or a half mile away. That guy, Tenny, likes to move it, man. Like he was with Ron Elzig, who's a pretty good hiker, and those guys freaking moved it. I fish slower without a guide.
Yeah.
I'm much more cautious. But I was walking down a ledge and I could see, I looked up and there's like a nice cut, like what you were describing, where you actually have a really good just rip delta where there's water just pouring off the flat, going to the delta. There's current and back eddies and foam. And then what I noticed about a lot of those GT cuts is half of it's sand and half of it's coral. Mm-hmm. So all the windswept and current swept stuff is sand, and then it builds up and there's a really hard coral ledge oftentimes where it's half sand and half coral. Well, I saw what Chris Barrow on the trip described as the GT pork chops. Those are the bigger mullet. He's like, yeah, those are the pork chops. I saw the pork chops jumping out of the water. And so, yeah, I saw the pork chops jumping out of the water, but I was still about a quarter mile away. And I'm like, I didn't see any thrashing or anything, but I was like, I marked it. I go, okay, when you get down there, like pay attention. But I didn't want to miss a bonefish opportunity. So I slowly work down there, and then as I'm getting closer, I get my GT rod ready because I'm going to go throw some blind casts into the delta. And I walk in there, and I'm like, okay, those mullet just exploded right out of here. And I look up, man, and it was cloudy, and then the cloud blew away, and then I see this fish laying there, and it's just not moving. It's like floating in kind of the backwater, like where the current comes off, and then, of course, it decelerates at the ledge, and it's moving slow. And I see this thing, and dude, I go, there's a dead bloated dolphin, just floating right there, not moving. And I look close because it was like, how dolphins have that real stubby dorsal, just like a GT. And because the dorsal fin on this thing looked rotten. It had like pock marks on it, like yellow, like mustard colored, like flakes on it. And I go, dude, that's not a dolphin. That's a giant trevally. And I go, well, now what do I do? And I'd still like thought it was dead because it was just kind of sitting, in like 2 feet of water, but right on the edge. And then it starts to come to life and I go, oh my God, dude, you better cast. So I move up a couple of steps and it started to move away, not because of my presence, just because that's what they do. It seemed like they're always moving. It started to move away at like 10 degrees. I threw a cast perpendicular to its descent, and the fly was kind of like coming slightly towards it, which
they don't like that.
Dude, they don't like it. He went under
It's not natural.
He dove under the fly and left, and then without dragging this on too long, I mean, I was like, okay, I have nothing else going. This is the only trevally I've seen all week. There was mullet here 30 minutes ago. There's a big GT there now. That big GT came in, started blitzing bait again, and he was coming at me so fast that I missed the cast by about 10 degrees. And he was coming at me so fast, he got between me and my fly too quick. Like I couldn't even recast. It was like once he was on bait, he was eating that bait, so my fly wasn't relevant because he was already on a mullet. And then so he came in, beat the hell out of these mullet. He left, and then I should have backed up to keep everything in front of me. And I've had guides tell me that before. I should have backed up and gotten like shin deep water and made sure that I didn't get seen and make sure that I'm not near the ledge. If you can cast to the ledge, you want your longest possible cast that you would ever throw to hit the ledge.
Yeah.
You're going to catch the fish in the flat because you have to be able to see them and you want them in feeding mode. Well, he got in behind me and swam up like 10 to 15 feet behind me. I didn't see him and then just exploded behind me, scared the crap out of me. Then I had a triple set come in and blitz, and I threw at the biggest wave. It was real flat light, and I threw into it at the biggest wave. I could see that the biggest wave wasn't tracking on my fly as I'm stripping it back. He was veering off, chasing natural bait. And so he veered off. So I started to pick up to recast. Well, there was another trevally that I couldn't see, pursued my fly as I'm picking up to recast.
Oh, as you're casting.
Dude, he ran right into me. He came up to like 10 feet and went, oh my God, and freaking blew up, and he blew the rest of the fish up. And then I got 2 more opportunities at slow movers. Actually, 3 more opportunities at slow movers, but not really feeders. And I made a couple of good shots, but a triple, maybe it was the same 3 came in slow moving, but they got in behind me again. They kept getting in behind me. They kept moving into like knee deep water.
Real shallow, huh?
And if they're not pushing hard, they don't make waves. They're hard to see. But I made a pretty good shot at a triple and just didn't get the eat out of it. But yeah, we had action. I can't blame anybody but myself for not coming home with a big GT, man. I guess I got to go back next year. So
guess you got to try again.
Well, next year I'm doing pretty much the same week at Christmas Island Lodge, and but the full moon's going to hit the day I arrive, so it'll be like the exact opposite. And so I liked Christmas Island Lodge. I thought the service was amazing. I think there's probably they run a smaller program, so there's probably a little bit more like at lodge hospitality. But I think the trade off is I think the fishing program at the Akari House is, just amazing. I think they do a great job. The guides were a little younger at Christmas Island Lodge, but super professional. Like I was telling one of you guys this morning, like the latest we left to go to the marina, which is they have a little private marina area, was 6:32 a.m. Like,
yeah, you're leaving early.
Every day we got out on time. Like it was really good. So yeah. Anyway, no big GT, but like I said, I get to go back next year.
Yeah.
When are you going next year?
May, I believe. Christmas Island Lodge. Yeah.
You'll
forward to that.
You'll love it. And then Eric, what's your next Christmas Island trip?
January 19th. The Akari House.
Akari House, January 19th. So yeah, both programs are running good.
Yeah. Very good lodges. I think we all are on full moons. I think mine might actually be on a third quarter. And I have fished the May trip I did last year was on a neap tide. And I actually really liked that fishing too. I didn't think it was I thought it would, if anything, it could be better.
You get a little bit more stability on the flats. And the full moon, big tides, there's pros and cons. We could beat it to death, but you're going to have to move more and adjust more in those bigger tide swings. Whereas the neap tides, you're going to be able to stay on those fish longer because you're not going to get dewatered or get the flat. You're not going to get flooded out, one or the other.
And the best tide is really bright sun.
Yeah. No clouds.
Yeah, no clouds. All right, everybody. Well, thanks very much for listening. We invite you to join one of our trips at some point. We do a great job hosting these and just trying to show you a great time and help make the most out of your hard-earned dollars and your spare time.